NordVPN allows you to surf the web anonymously while protecting your financial data, passwords, emails, and interests from hackers and even your own ISP. Follow the link in the description for 75% off a 3-month plan to NordVPN. Hey, what's up, people? Pizzal here, and today I want to talk to you guys about 1987's Howling 3, The Marsupials. Now, this is partially going to be a review of the movie as well as a review of this new Blu-ray release from Umbrella Entertainment. And the Howling series is a really interesting horror franchise. It definitely would not be considered a very much beloved horror franchise amongst most horror fans, especially beyond the third movie. The original Howling film is pretty much a classic. The second Howling it's highly entertaining. I've always enjoyed it. And the Howling 3 features marsupial werewolves. What's not to love about marsupial werewolves? However, from there, the series kind of goes downhill. However, I have a soft spot for all of the Howling movies, really, in my heart, because I can remember them so vividly on the video store shelves of the video stores that I grew up in. And even seeing one of the promotional, like big cardboard cutouts for, I think it was Howling 5. And just thinking that was really cool and like wanting that in my bedroom. But I have just a soft spot for the Howling movies. I would love to see a documentary about the entire Howling series and how the rights shifted, how the series went from the Joe Dante original to a, Euro sleazy werewolf movie to a movie about marsupial werewolves in the Australian outback and thereon. So my fingers are crossed for a Howling retrospective documentary at some point in the future. I would love that. Now, I definitely intend on talking about some of the latter Howling movies in the very near future, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I've talked about the original Howling. I've talked about the Howling 2 on this channel. But this video is all about marsupial werewolves in the Australian outback. And I've always really enjoyed the Howling 3 for just how unique it is. It's a really off-the-wall, satirical, fun movie about marsupial werewolves. I mean, marsupial werewolves, for God's sake. Where does that idea come from? Marsupial werewolves. The movie focuses on a young werewolf named Jerboa who desperately wants to break away from her pack of werewolves in the Australian outback, where she is under the thumb of the tyrannical leader of the pack. She finds her way to America. She finds her way into the movies. She finds her way into the bed of one of the guys who's working on the movie. The movie, by the way, is entitled Shapeshifter Part 8. It's a werewolf movie, so you've got a werewolf movie inside of a werewolf movie. Some odd inception going on there. And eventually she finds herself pregnant. And she gives birth to a young, tiny werewolf fetus that crawls into her marsupial pouch. And I would recommend Howling 3 just for that sequence alone, because you're watching a werewolf give birth to a tiny werewolf fetus that crawls into her marsupial pouch. In what other movie has anything even close to that ever happened? Eventually, the United States government discovers that these marsupial werewolves are living in the Australian outback, so they seek to capture them, run tests on them, document them as this as yet undocumented species of human, and if they have to kill a few along the way, oh well, some of the tests that they run on them are pretty awful and will probably end up killing them too, but hey, it's all for science. Now, there's a lot going on in Howling 3, The Marsupials. This is not a traditional horror movie or even a traditional werewolf movie. On one hand, The Howling 3 is a satire of werewolf movies. It's also a satire of just Hollywood in general, I think. There's a lot of great fairy tale-like moments in this movie, particularly toward the end. There's a couple of great love stories going on in this movie as well. And I think that a couple of things that are really interesting about The Howling 3 is how it portrays werewolves. This movie doesn't portray werewolves as just vicious beasts who are out there, eating everybody who gets in their way. It really depicts werewolves as just people trying to live their lives, but unfortunately they have to live their lives in this kind of, solitude, because they don't want people to know that they're werewolves because they'll be hunted and killed. There's also a great theme in this movie about endangered animals. Animals on the brink of extinction. And werewolves in this film are depicted as being on the brink of extinction. That's why they've really broken up into these different packs. There's different werewolf packs across the world. And it just so happens that, of course, the Australian werewolves are all marsupials. But I really thought that the depiction of werewolves in this movie was really interesting. And the themes of course, what we don't understand, we must destroy. And the movie opens with footage of the Tasmanian tiger, which of course was just a beautiful, beautiful creature that was hunted to extinction many, 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 many years ago. But there's a lot going on in this movie that I find really interesting and really entertaining about Howling 3 the Marsupials, that most people going into it expecting just a traditional werewolf movie probably aren't going to really, tap into or really appreciate, because this is kind of a werewolf light movie. It was originally rated PG-13. The werewolf effects in the movie, they aren't that great. The transformations really they aren't that great either. There's really no blood. There's really no gore in this movie. This movie's all about the story. This movie's all about the characters. This movie's all about just being very different and unique. And I dug that about The Howling 3. Now, a lot of people probably will hate the movie because of those things, especially if they go into it expecting a traditional werewolf movie. But I've always really dug The Howling 3 for just how unique it is. I mean, again, marsupial freaking werewolves. The cast from top to bottom is fantastic. Philippe Mora, who directed Howling 2, wrote and directed this movie. I think the movie's really well written. I love the dialogue. I love the characters. The dialogue is really smart, really, again, satirical. The characters in the movie, most of them are just kind of off the wall. The director of the Shapeshifters movie is hilarious. He's like this Alfred Hitchcock type character. There's a lot of great characters when you get to the Australian outback. It's a really well made movie. Everything about it. I've always enjoyed Howling 3 the Marsupials. I definitely recommend it. Again, it's not a traditional werewolf movie, so don't go into it expecting a Howling 2 type experience. But if you go into it with an open mind and expecting something different and unique, I think you'll really dig Howling 3 the Marsupials. If you've not seen the film, I definitely recommend it. This Blu-ray would be a great way to introduce yourself to the film. If you're a fan of Howling 3 the Marsupials, you definitely want to look into this Blu-ray from Umbrella Entertainment and add it to your collection. First, let's check out the presentation here. We've got some great new artwork there from Simon Sherry on the cover. Great stuff there. Always love his artwork on these Umbrella Entertainment releases. The sleeve is reversible, and on the reverse side, we have the original artwork for Howling 3, which is also very cool. The back of the Blu-ray doesn't indicate any kind of elaborate transfer or restoration of the movie. However, as far as the picture quality is concerned, I thought the movie looked fantastic. I would give it a solid 4 out of 5. Same with the sound quality. I thought it sounded fantastic. I'd give the sound quality a solid 4 out of 5 as well. As far as extras are concerned, first up, we have Colonial Lycanthrope, a conversation with Philippe Mora. It's 14 minutes and 30 seconds in length. Mr. Mora discusses trying to raise money for the film through the Australian government, but they didn't like the idea of marsupial werewolves. He discusses getting the gig to direct Howling 2 and working with Christopher Lee. And actually, he discusses Christopher Lee's background as a spy in World War II, which I had no idea, and how the citizens of Prague, where they shot Howling 2, actually considered him a war hero. And when Philippe Mora and Christopher Lee got to Prague to shoot Howling 2, the citizens had put together a parade to celebrate Christopher Lee. I thought that was really cool. Mr. Moore discusses how he wanted Howling 2 to be nothing like Howling 1 and wanted Howling 3 to be nothing like Howling 2 as a way of rebelling against what he calls sequelitis. He discusses his fascination with the extinct Tasmanian tiger serving as inspiration for the Howling 3. He discusses using comedy as a way to tell a serious story. He discusses the film getting a positive review in the New York Times and how that catapulted video sales for the movie and more. Very nice interview with Mr. Mora. Next up, we get extended interviews from the Not Quite Hollywood documentary. It's 18 minutes and 55 seconds in length. Philip Mora discusses the genesis of Howling 3. He discusses nearly casting Nicole Kidman as the lead in the film, but felt that she wasn't quite werewolf enough for him. He discusses putting a mouse inside of a marsupial werewolf fetus suit to shoot the birth scene. It's a very interesting discussion. He discusses the film's success with both critics and audiences. He discusses the difficulties of getting films financed by the Australian government back in the day, and more. Bob McKieran, the special makeup effects artist for Howling 3, discusses meeting with Philip Mora and getting the gig on Howling 3. He discusses how much fun the set of the film was and how much fun the cast and crew had while working on Howling 3 and more. Very nice interviews with Mr. Mora and Mr. McCarran. We get a TV spot for the film. We get 4 trailers and a press gallery. We also get 2 audio commentaries, one commentary with Philippe Mora, the other audio commentary with Philippe Mora and director Jamie Blanks. I listened to about a half hour of the commentary with Mr. Mora and Mr. Blanks. They discuss the genesis of Howling 3. They discuss Mr. Mora's career up to the Howling 3 and more. Very nice commentary with Mr. Mora and Mr. Blanks, at least for about the 30 minutes that I listened to. This is a very nice Blu-ray release for Howling 3 The Marsupials from the fine folks over at Umbrella Entertainment. I definitely recommend the movie. If you've not seen it, this Blu-ray would be a great way to introduce yourself to the film. If you're a fan of Howling 3 The Marsupials, you definitely want to look into picking up this Blu-ray and adding it to your collection. You've got great picture quality and sound quality and some really nice extras on this release and some really cool artwork on the cover. If you've seen The Howling 3, please let me know your thoughts on it down in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on the Howling franchise in general down in the comments section below. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. If you're not following me on social media, those links are in the description. They're also right around here. As always, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care, and until next time, peace. Join the $1 a Month Club and help support my channel on Patreon. Thank you to my current patrons, Kevin Smythe, Orc145626, B-Movie Mike, Robert Sobel, Turi Delamore, Stephen Flanagan, Lori Holt, Mitch Odell, Farron Sutton, Craig Farrand, Jeremiah Lambert, Grindhouse Grotto, Joseph Charlesworth, Chris Earls, Derek Jana, Demon Waffles, Simon Clark, Stone Gassman, Zachary Barton, Mr. Bibby86, James Welch, Eli Geisler, Jeff Overing, Alan Scott, Kyle McGuire, Jay the Stingray, Lauren Dixon, Travis Davis, Dave Barnes, Jonathan Lundy, Chris Parsons, Chris Gonzalez, Trenton Bowser, and Jason Brattenbach. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.